Welcome to this brief overview of recent changes to OpenEye Web Services. You can always check to find the latest release notes for any of the different updates by going to the feedback button in the upper right. And after you've reached the feedback screen, then on the left-hand side, choose the platform that you'd like to see the updates to. In this case, if you click on OpenEye Web Services, you'll be able to see the latest release notes. This session is going to just provide a brief overview of some of the key changes that have gone live on OpenEye Web Services recently. We won't cover every single change that can be found in the release notes. Some of them don't really have anything to show, but really want to highlight some of those key changes. The number one thing is we've added a new report called a thumbnail report. Now this is different than the day-night images, and it is available at both the channel partner level and the end user level. If I come in here to reports, I'll click on add new report, and you can see that that new thumbnail report is available here. If I click on that and then hit next, give it a name here really quick, and we'll hit create. Now, the key here is that you can collect thumbnail images from a recorder or from a specific camera and have those be displayed in an hourly format. So you have a thumbnail image from the top of every hour for the entire day, or you can choose a custom option. This allows you to specify a specific time and specific days of the week, and you can specify more than one time. Just by hitting the plus there, we add in that additional option. For ease of setup and example sake, we'll leave that on hourly. Now at the channel partner level, you don't really have the option to add individual recorders or individual cameras. This is going to be about a view of one of your accounts. So your option here is to add an account, and then you have your end user accounts displayed here. You can add one or more of those to make those show up on this report for you. Under users and notifications, relatively standard option here. You enable this, you set the time of day and how frequently you want it to be sent. Add users down here along the bottom and the option to send an email to them. One thing that is different is you can choose a single camera to include as a thumbnail image in the email notification that goes out. So this provides just a single camera as a point of reference that provides a quick look at one of the cameras that is key on this report. This function, quite honestly, is most useful at the end user level. This report was designed for end users that need to see at a quick glance those thumbnail images of what was happening either hourly or at a specific time of day. So let's jump into an end user account and go in and take a look at how different this is at the end user level. So here I've already got a report made. I'm going to go into edit. And here you'll see that instead of accounts, I have cameras. So I have the option to add cameras. Instead of a whole recorder or a whole account, I can pick and choose the specific cameras that I need for this report. So you can see once I've added cameras, then under users and notifications, I have the ability here to select which camera I want to be included in that email. All right, let's jump back up to the reports and take a look at this report. So when we come in here and look at the thumbnail report, it is querying the recorder in real time. So it does take a few seconds for it to load those. And so it's going to give us a display here of this particular camera. Again, this is an hourly setup, so it's giving us right at the top of the hour throughout the day. So we can see, early morning there, we scroll down during the day while there's vehicles here at the facility. And then as we scroll towards the end here, we run out of available images because this hasn't happened yet. So this is today. We're pulling images from today and getting this. Now it does pull full resolution if there's recording available at that time. So if I click on this, I can get a high resolution image, or in this case, there was no motion activity, so it's giving me a lower resolution there. Also keep in mind that if there's no recorded footage during that time, that it won't pull an image. This means if you're recording on motion only and you're middle of the night, you don't have any motion activity happening, you won't actually have an image available here. So a customer that wants to see images filled in throughout the day, you'll want to make sure that you have their recorder set up for continuous plus motion. As far as navigating here, once I scroll to the very bottom past my blank images, you can see it goes into the next camera down. So that shows me my additional camera there. Up here at the top, I can scroll to a different day just by using the navigation here. So if I scroll back to yesterday, now I can scroll through this and I can see all of those thumbnail images for the entire day. The other option is if your cameras are from more than one recorder, it actually separates the pages by recorder. So you'll see up here in the upper right the ability to navigate to a different recorder. Our next item of significance also is in reports. So if I go up here to my reports section and I take a look at my system summary report. When I come in here, you'll notice that the landing page is a little bit different. Instead of landing on the overview, we are now landing on a recorder list that shows the current status along the left-hand side here. We had overwhelming requests for a better at-a-glance view to try and be able to determine recorders that we were having problems with. And the overview didn't really provide that in a clear and concise manner. So we've changed this up. The overview does still exist. It's available over here. But the landing page now comes to this recorder list so we can get a quick look at what recorders are functioning properly and what recorders are in distress. You'll also notice a couple other minor changes. So here I can still click view on this and we can drill into the recorder details. You'll notice here that we've got some new items available and we're doing better metric measurements on what remote clients are being used to connect to that system. And then we've got some of the other stats that you're familiar here with your usage stats, storage retention, things like that. I can navigate to the next recorder here along the upper right bar. And then of course I can go back to my overview where this gives me that overview for all my recorders that are on this account. So total number of recorders, total camera count, and then some of those same usage statistics, but for the entire account instead of for just a single recorder. Now we also added a couple of toggle on-off options here on this report. So if I go back out to my reports, I'm going to use this sample one that I've got here and we'll click on edit there. And then I go into my report definition. And here you can see we've got a few different items that we've made as an option to toggle on and off for the users to be able to view. So your recorder list, recorder details, and overview. So if you wanted to hide any of those from a user or a particular type of group didn't need to see some of that information, you can uncheck those to hide it. And then underneath there, some of the other details as well, the ability to hide those if necessary. Another significant change you might notice is here in the upper right on our menu, Video Archive has been changed to Video. Now there's two significant reasons that we made this change. The first is because in Command Station, we introduced a new export function called Archive. And this is where we can archive a larger amount of data, so multiple cameras for a longer period of time, and we export it and keep it in proprietary format. So you have to have either Command Station or a viewer to actually be able to open that up. And we're referring to that as the archive function. But it's nothing to do with the cloud storage video archive, and so it created some confusion. In addition, our long-term plans for the video area here include some new features that will be more pertinent to the title video than to video archive. So we decided to go ahead and make that change. So archive is what Command Station does to keep that proprietary format in an export. And now in the cloud, we have our video section. Right now, there's only the one item on there. When you click on that, it's going to take you to the video clips section. So these are incident clips that have been uploaded for this account to be shared out either for long-term storage or shared with the police or with security or with HR, any of those type of scenarios you can think of there. All right, that covers the major changes to this update. But we do have a couple more minor updates that I do want to cover just to be able to point those out, let you know what some of those others are. So let's go over here to our settings and take a look at users. So under individual users, we've added a new capability to see some additional details. So I'm going to go into my account here, and you'll notice on the left, we used to have just user details and group membership. We have now added notifications, alerts, and reports. So notifications gives you the ability to universally turn off notifications either for alerts or reports for this user. So a pretty solid example of this would be someone going on vacation or taking a leave of absence that has a period of time they don't want to receive any of this, and so they want to go in here and turn themselves off so that they don't get those notifications while they don't need it, and then they can easily re-enable that without having to remove themselves from a whole bunch of different alerts or rules or report notifications, that kind of thing. Next down is we have alerts, and this actually shows which alerts this user has been added to. So this can be especially useful when you have a company that's grown fairly large and has a large number of alerts, and you have a user that might be a member of numerous alerts, and you're trying to figure out, which alerts do they actually need, which do they need to be taken out of, which are they even a member of. So here we've made a nice little place here. You can come in and check alerts, and you can see what alerts they are a member of. And then same thing on reports. When we go down there, we can see what reports this user has been made a member of. So just something where we're trying to create, again, an ease of use aspect, multiple angles to kind of get to the same data, but trying to consolidate it in an easier to find manner. Now, one of the other things we've done as far as user permissions is under groups, and I'll go into one of my groups here, and then if we go to Web Services, you'll notice here in the lower right, we've added a couple of additional functions here with a Reports Administrator and an Alerts Administrator. What we were running into before was a problem where to make a user capable of administrating either reports or alerts, we didn't have enough permission discretion to do that without essentially making them a full-fledged administrator. And there are definitely scenarios where you want someone who's more of an admin manager type role to be able to manage those alerts or reports, but not have full admin access to the entire system. So we've added this discrete permission in here so that you can give a user or user group the ability to administer those two functions without giving them full permissions to everything. Another item with user permissions when it comes to alerts and reports, previously a user, if you added them to a report, but there were recorders on that report that they didn't actually have permission to, they would be able to see information about that recorder. So recorder name, location, thumbnail images from it. Now, it wouldn't give them access to actually view the recorder, but if you do think of some sensitive situations with privacy or with various regulations where you don't even want certain users or unauthorized users to be able to see thumbnail images, it would expose a little bit of risk there in what that user was able to see. So one of the things we've done is we've actually locked down those alerts and reports now, so you can add a user to a report that report might have all the recorders on it, but that user is only able to see the recorders that they've been given permission to when they're looking through the data within that report. One of the other changes we made under our alerts section, so we go to our alert rules and then we look at our health alerts type of a setup here. We look at our rule definition and we've got our various events that can be set at different thresholds. We were receiving a lot of false positives for hard drive errors. Very typically, a hard drive can occasionally have a write error. It's a small hiccup. And if there's only one that occurs every so often, it's actually not a very big deal. And we were running into problems where that one was triggering an alert, causing concern. And so we wanted to try and filter through some different ways to reduce the false positives on that. Another one is heat. It's, not all that uncommon for heat to occasionally trip, as long as it's not continually happening. So what we've done is we've changed the hard drive error threshold to be 5 of any of the hard drive smart alerts within a 24-hour period will cause this to actually trigger and generate a alert, whether that includes an email, depending on your users and notifications, would be up to the individual rule configuration there. Another item we made a change to is under Web Connect when you use recorder groups. Now, if you aren't familiar with this, it's definitely something that I recommend whenever you've got a customer that has a large number of recorders. If you go under recorder management, you can then go into recorder groups and you can actually create groups of recorders. Think of this in a similar fashion to how you're creating groups of users. By creating a group, it makes it easier to manage to universally apply a rule to or add that group of recorders to a report or alert instead of having to individually add, dozens or maybe hundreds of recorders. One of the things, so the change we made here was when you're on Web Connect and you go to recorder groups, it does now include the description field that'll display here, and it also shows you how many recorders are in that group. Now, if I click on one of these groups, it just does a little mini drill down, so it's filtering to show me just the recorders that are included in that group. If I jump back to my recorders, that's going to show me all of my recorders. Another small change we made is under the alerts history. So if you were in here, you might have tons and tons of alerts, so it's super useful to use the filters option. So maybe I used the filters option, added something in there, hit apply, and now I've got a filter applied, so I'm only seeing the information that I filtered by. For quite a while, we had a little hiccup there where clicking the clear button did nothing, and so you still had whatever filters you had built in here. So if you built in a half a dozen things, it was kind of a pain to have to reset. So we've actually made it so that clear filter actually works properly, and now I can hit apply, and then it resets my filter there. We've also done a couple improvements to the time zone matching. So if you have the report set to an appropriate time and your end user account set to the appropriate time zone, that'll make those reports go out in the proper manner. Also under users, we had a couple of different problems here. Under the details for user, if you made any changes, then navigated away without saving, it would prompt you, do you want to save those settings? And you could choose save changes and it wouldn't actually save. So we have corrected that, so it will actually save those changes. In addition, on that job title, we had trouble where you could no longer change a job title once it had been set. That's been corrected now, so you're able to make those changes there. We also made an update again under the alerts section when it comes to rules, and that's going to be for any of those health alerts where you had a recorder not reporting. So this threshold right here for your option for recorder not reporting. One of the things we had is if you created the rule or added the recorder to the rule while that recorder was in an offline state, it would leave it in kind of a limbo state, and so it would never properly use this alert to report on the status of that recorder. So that recorder would be offline and the report would never tell you it came back online, and then this particular rule would fail to notify you when it went offline if it did again. So we've fixed that. So now it doesn't matter when you created the rule or when you added the recorder, what state it was in, it'll properly reset that the next time it gets communication from the recorder. All right, that's going to do it for the major changes that were made to OpenEye Web Services. Again, you can always take a look at what the current release notes are of any of the items. You can go to the feedback up in the upper right, and this opens our feedback section. This is, of course, very valuable to us. The information that you provide us, not only bugs, but just general feedback and feature requests, help drive that future development and the updates that you need. In this particular case, we can click on OpenEye Web Services, and then we can look at our most recent release notes. And here you can see some of the changes I just covered, as well as several other items that I didn't cover because there wasn't really a great way to show those particular items, or they were just less critical. Thanks for joining me for this session. If you have any feedback, please email training@openeye.net.